All right, good morning. My name is Dr. Terrance Scott. It is an honor and privilege to work with you today. If you are here, it is because you are here for the ELA K-5 facilitator presentation. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and press us forward. I will say, as I move us forward, I would like for us to please remember our norms for our time together, which is essentially just making sure that we are present and engaged at all times, making sure that we are open to learning, practicing both and thinking, and most importantly, honor wellness, which is essentially just taking care of yourself. If you need to stand up and stretch, get more coffee, it's totally fine. Just please be as engaged as possible during our short time together today. All right. If you see me looking at multiple screens or navigating, well, I got multiple things happening here, so forgive me for the back and forth, but I want to make sure that I get everything out as clearly as possible. All right, so today we'll be deepening your understanding of how the science of reading intersects with the standard shifts, foundational skills, and GLEAM instruction. And we'll go over what GLEAM means in just a little bit here. So before I get started, can I have someone use the raise hand feature or any reaction tool and just share out loud if you teach grades 3 through 5? Awesome, thank you. And those of you who reacted, could you please give me another reaction and just share how many of you have striving readers in your class? And what I mean by striving reader is who may have unfinished instruction in reading. Okay, so a few of you. Awesome, thank you. So, although much of today's content focuses on the instruction that occurs in K2, where students are learning to decode, all teachers in the K-5 band need a robust understanding of this content to identify and address unfinished foundational skills instruction for older readers. Okay. Any questions? Awesome. All right. So, pressing us forward in the interest of time. So, yesterday, Mariama witnessed to us about the importance ensuring students have access to the language of power without disrupting or devaluing the rich language students bring to school from the homes they are loved in. So culturally competent teachers who have sought to understand the community which they are teaching in, welcome various dialects, plan accordingly, and teach in ways that are culturally sustaining and relevant. So can I have a volunteer please just read the scenario here out loud on the screen, and then we'll come back together and share just a moment. Thank you. Leverage dialect with orthographic mapping. Mrs. Frankie is reading dictation sentences from her first grade class at Frederick Elementary School. She notices that Janelle and several of her classmates, have spelled hand as han. How would you respond to this misconception? So, would I have any volunteers share their thoughts, allow how they would handle the situation? Okay. All right. Okay. So I want to push that last comment, if you don't mind, for a second here. I'm really curious on your thoughts on this. Have you considered how dialect may impact how students hear phonemes? Okay, awesome. All right, so to push us forward, so here on the left, we see that there are a lot of different versions of English. In fact, there are over 150 English dialects spoken across the world, right? So, in thinking about that, here in North America, this is just a small representation of the vast different arrays of English can be spoken as we know it, from AAVE to Cajun, Chicano, Dutch, Southern Appalachian, Gullah, etc. Right? And so, in thinking about that, it's worth noting that there's a discrepancy and inequity between the ways in which certain vernaculars and dialects are valued more than others. This language dominance is influenced by the assimilationist lens that oppose the ideology that English or European dialects are culture or more superior, and AAVE and other diverse accents are somehow less valuable or appropriate. Okay. So as we teach orthographic mapping, it is important to discuss and be conscious of dialect and accent. A difference between the dialect and accent of instruction and the dialect accent of a student has the potential to cause some students difficulty in learning how to read or write. When phonics instruction is informed by dialect/accent, teachers can respectfully acknowledge any differences and minimize difficulties that may arise from them. Okay. Can anyone give me an example of some dialects that are spoken in your region? Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Awesome. Cool. Thank you for sharing. All right, I'm gonna push us forward. There we go. So how do we leverage what we know about students' home languages to avoid pitfalls when teaching phonics? Okay. Okay. So at this point, we're going to turn our attention to an approach of language acquisition that has its roots in the 1950s, and it's called contrastive analysis. Okay. Can I have a volunteer please just read the quote here on the screen? Contrastive analysis helps compare languages, pinpointing where categories are absent and surface structures, potentially leading to interference. Excellent. Thank you for that. So, what are some key words or phrases that stick out to you that aided you in understanding what contrastive analysis is? So, I'm saying compare, identify, difficulty. Okay. Okay. Excellent. So, contrastive analysis is really all about looking at two languages, right, and explicitly naming the differences between the two. The goal is that if you know the specific languages and rules that govern each, you'll be able to translate more efficiently. Okay. Any questions or thoughts on that? All right. So, in African American vernacular, for example, we may see consonant cluster simplification in context where the following word begins with a consonant. So, Walt Wolfram defines consonant cluster simplification in AE as the deletion of a stop consonant such as T, D, P, or K when it follows another word at the end of the word. Therefore, words like test, hand, and desk are pronounced test, hand, and desk. Okay. This language pattern is found in both the AAVE and Appalachian dialects. Okay. Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. So can I have a volunteer please read this section here on the screen? A culturally sustained response. During small group instruction, Mrs. Frankie engages Janelle and her classmates who left off the N sounds in the contrastive analysis exercise to support them in making the connection between the way the word is pronounced in AAVE and the way it's pronounced in GAE, which is General Academic English. All right, so thinking about the acronym GLEAM. GLEAM stands for grade level, engaging, affirming, and meaningful. All right. So, what elements of Gleam instruction does Mrs. Frankie leverage? Let's look at it. So, in terms of grade level, it meets expectation for rigor based on grade level standards. It is engaging because there's some productive struggle there, and there's a building of cognitive capacity. So we're being stretched here. It's affirming by honoring and leveraging culture to increase engagement and affirming funds of knowledge. And therefore, it's meaningful because of the connection and application to the real world in ways that connect with students' lived experiences, embodies anti-racism, and challenges inequity around language and whose language is valued. Okay. Any questions around that at all? I know I went through it pretty fast, but I wanted us to kind of have a clear understanding of how the GLEAM acronym fits here. Excellent. Okay. All right. So here's a concrete example of this activity that we're going to do really quickly here together. Let's take a look at the contrastive analysis task that Mrs. Frankie planned for Janelle and her small group, okay? So I'm going to model this mini lesson, and you can just pretend that you're first graders for a moment, right? So good afternoon, Janelle. You did an amazing job with your dictation sentences. I noticed the word hand in your writing. You wrote, her hand is big. Can you tell me more about your sentence? How many hands do you have, Janelle? Two? All right, good job. Let's talk about the sounds you hear in hand. How many sounds do you hear? Move your chips to represent the sounds you hear. All right. Yes, three is correct. Ah, and. Very good. We say hand, and some people say it different. They say hand. Okay. We're going to use our sound boxes to count the number of sounds we hear in hand. So move your chips to represent sounds you hear in hand. Yep. Yep. You see, there are four sounds. There's ah, and. Good. When we read books, we will see hand, but we may say hand and hear others say hand. Okay. Even though we say it differently, it's important to remember that hand, H-A-N-D, is how we spell the word and how we will see it in our school books. Okay. All right. Excellent work. Rounding the corner here. We're almost finishing up here. So I want you to take a look at these two word clouds, and I want you to see the difference between what's said on the left versus the perspective on the right, and how we're going to do a pedagogical shift. Okay. So, how is what's said on the right, if you want to translate your statement into GAE, what rule would apply? How is that different from that is not proper English? That's not how you will talk in this classroom. Mm, yeah. Okay. So, what I want to know is, have you always been on the side that you're on right now? Yeah. So generally speaking, there are times where we think we might be on the right, or we wish we were on the right, but our biases start to show up when we start to rethink about the left, or the left comes up verbally for us, right? So thinking about how we can push ourselves to maintain the statement on the right more than on the left, okay? All right. So I have a couple of quotes here. I just want to see what resonates with you from each of these two quotes. So if you wouldn't mind having someone come off mute and just share the quote on the left, and then someone different read the quote on the right. And I won't call on anyone, just ask one to just come off and just share real quick. Thank you. Excellent. All right, so to wrap us up, Gleam instruction demands that we leverage dialect to support students to break the code, okay? We advocate that teachers seek to understand dialect and language so they can increase academic English without denigrating their home language. Educators create access to the dominant culture, which is general English, in order to create access to power for all students, while valuing and validating linguistic/cultural diversity, along with students' flexibility, fluidity, and pluralism. Okay. Understanding dialect as a way to support students to break the code is an equitable practice. Understanding dialect is important to be able to teach this portion of foundational skills and to be able to approach with cultural sensitivity and curiosity. Our charge here at UnBoundEd is to affirm and honor students while building their intellectual capacity, okay? Educators consistently must create ample opportunities for students to capitalize on and demonstrate their own cultural knowledge and ways of being, and to engage with representations of their own and others' identities, cultures, and experiences. Do you have any final questions or thoughts as we close out? Okay. I want to thank you sincerely for your time. I wish you the best and a great rest of your day. Thanks a lot, and take care. Bye, everyone.